Mm, mm. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Starlight Beacon, Star Wars Sunday. Back with another stream. This episode, we will be talking about, I'll be talking to you guys about The Bad Batch, since it got an official May the 4th release date. Sorry, I got some cables below me. Yeah, that came out this week. We had a Star Wars, or not Star Wars, but some mid-major Star Wars news of an official release date from Lucasfilm on when they plan to release The Bad Batch, and it's on May the 4th. No surprises there. I think when they announced that they were going to do a spring release for the show, we should have probably seen that one coming. Um, but yeah, like we hadn't gotten too much promotion for this show as of yet, but that is big news. Confirmed release date on Disney Plus, of course. Um, Not too much Star Wars content here. I think for the most part, we're going to have a lot of Marvel um, in at least the early months of 2021, and rightfully so. I mean, this is pretty much going to be Marvel's year. Star Wars had last year. We're going to have, Marvel's going to have next year or this year. But yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I'm kind of looking forward to this show. I was on the fence about it. It didn't grab me when it was announced. I think right around when season 7 of the Clone Wars premiered, I believe that's when they first announced this show. I think it was like afterwards, after the show premiered. That was like some news that came out of that show because the Bad Batch or Clone Division 99, I believe that's what their official designation are, were officially revealed in that, or at least to the masses, they were revealed in that season 7 of the Clone Wars. But the early composite shots they had for season 7 was that like around 2011, 2012, like right after the Disney acquisition. It had basically the first arc with the Bad Batch in that season. So we did see some early footage of the Bad Batch, um, and that was really our introduction. But the trailer that they showed, that definitely sold me. Um, After I saw the trailer that released a couple months ago, I was like, okay. Well, no, that wasn't a couple months. Was that for? That was for D. That was the D23 event back in December. When that trailer came out, that kind of sold me. That kind of got me over the fence, and I was like, okay, I can get down with this. I like the tone and the vibe of that trailer. Um, they didn't. It seemed like they were kind of a um, I don't want to say rogue, but uh, covert at least, like off the books kind of operatives. Like they don't even um, some of the clones and stormtroopers during this time period seem to be kind of either hunting them or they aren't aware of their true mission or true allegiance. It seems to be that's what they're playing at, or they could be on their own. It didn't really give us too much context. I know that at some point during the season, they are reporting to Director Tarkin, um, or Governor Tarkin. I guess he is. I don't know if he's Grand Admiral yet. Um, which is something I want to talk about because in that trailer they revealed Tarkin to be involved. Uh, the sniper from the Mandalorian, Fennec Shan, is appearing in this. She will have a cameo. Actually, she seems to have like a pretty prominent role, being that she is featured in that first trailer. So that to me indicates that she's going to be a major player in the series. But I kind of want to talk about like what or who else could be appearing during this time period. Um, right off the bat, the trailer seems to take place, or it at least indicates that this show takes place like right after Order 66, like right after, initially after the Purge. So the Republic has just transitioned from the from the Grand Republic to the Galactic Empire. Uh, I'm assuming that we'll see some of that uh, transition. Like, um, how is the Empire initially received? I would imagine that by the reception, the announcement of the Galactic Empire being formed in the Senate, at least, I think there should be a lot of optimism within at least the core worlds of the galaxy. It would be interesting to see like some of the political landscape and how things kind of sort of go downhill. The early formation of the rebellion, um, which brings me to the topic of who could appear possibly. With this being so early on, we know that there are a lot of Jedi still alive. Well, not a lot, but a good amount of Jedi survivors of Order 66, which is why they found the Purge troopers. So, the Grand Inquisitor could definitely be someone that we see. Trilla could be someone that we see from who was introduced in Jedi Fallen Order, who is the second sister. Um, Grand Admiral Thrawn actually could definitely be someone that we see in this series because from the Thrawn trilogy, um, he is he would be just starting down his path to ascend the ranks of the Imperial Navy. So we'd see Captain Thrawn probably, and he wouldn't have his signature white suit. It would be in the traditional dark gray military uniform that most of the officers wear, and probably Eli Vanto if we do see Thrawn, because that was his right hand man. Like wherever Thrawn went, Eli was. Um, so I think it's a strong possibility we could see a younger Thrawn in this series, which I would like to see. I'd definitely be down for. Who else could be appearing? Um, I am kind of curious to see or to know um what how involved is Tarkin going to be in this series, because he's a looming figure. He is ascending, like he's gained favor with the Emperor, well, with Palpatine during the Clone Wars. Where does he start his position? Is a lot of his success a credit to the Bad Batch? Like, are they who help him ascend um, up the Imperial ranks? He's got the political and the military background, but as a leader, as a commander, how does he kind of sort of fit? Like, how does he move up through the ranks and things of that nature? That could be an element that they could play into. What, of course, happens to Clone Force 99 is a big question. Um, like, I don't know. This is not a time period that is all too familiar, um, and hasn't been widely covered in canon, even in Legends. Not the initial years, or at least moments after Order 66. It's kind of just talked about, and then we typically kind of sort of fast forward into a couple years later when the like let's say um, the delegation 2000 begin to make noise and form the galactic the rebellion, or at least they start to fund the rebellion. And the delegation of 2000 they were 2000 concerned senators of the Galactic Senate who third the Republic. It figures like Mon Mothma, who became the leader of the um, Rebel Alliance and eventually the New Republic. Bail Organa, of course, and then a host of others. Some were assassinated. Some um, met untimely ends, but a good number of them would probably be represented in that one scene in Rogue One when they're all gathered on the Yavin base, debating whether or not they should go to um, Edu, I believe. I think that was the installation. No, or was it whatever the plan, Scarif, when they were debating whether or not they should send a force to Scarif and um, assault the base head on to retrieve the Death Star plans, and they voted on it and they decided no, they didn't have the full support, which is when um, Jen Urso goes off to do it, and that's where we begin Act 3. Parco, what's going on? Yeah, so like Cassian Andor might be someone that we see, Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, but I think that the show is going to feature prominently most of the members of the Empire. Like I think we're going to stay focused on the Empire, which is why I'm like, yo, someone that I would definitely like to see is a young Thrawn. Like that's high up on my list. The Grand Inquisitor, maybe some more of the Purge Troopers. We might see some Jedi. We might get more of the Inquisitors, the different brothers and sisters of the Inquisitorium that we aren't familiar with, and maybe some that we are. I would like to see Trilla in this series. Like they shouldn't like take over, but like at least be seen in some capacity. Who else? Callus might be someone that appears. Yularen from Clone Wars and Rebels could also appear in this series. A number of figures, I think that, I mean, we might. Nah, I don't think so. Actually, never mind. Because the timing wise, it wouldn't line up. But I feel like Thrawn just makes sense to show up, and it depends on these missions that the Bad Batch do. Like, I'm not sure what they're going to be doing in this series. Like, it feels to me, or at least it seems like it was implied that they work directly with Tarkin, but it's covertly, and a lot of it is off the books, off the record. Like most of it seemed like there was a moment where the other stormtroopers were they were engaged with other stormtroopers. So I don't know. That's what's got my curiosity. It's like they seem to be some sort of covert, off the record, off the books type of force that only a select few people in the higher ups of the Imperial military know about. So it would be interesting to see like how they're utilized, and do they stay loyal to the Empire? Like what happens to them? We do know that eventually the Empire transitions away from the clones and goes into a starts drafting common civilians from the populace, from the Imperial worlds. How does Clone Force 99 react to that? They were kind of like a fringe anyway. They didn't fit in with the regular clones. And now that the clones are being replaced by there's like, what does that do? How do they how do they interpret that? Like, how do they react to that situation? Like, there could be some interesting things with this series, in my opinion, that I would definitely like to see outside of the combat, outside of the missions. Are we going to see other Jedi? Are we going to see Maul? Is he going to, make an appearance with Crimson Dawn? Are they going to handle some of the criminal underworld? We do see Fennec Shan, and during this time period, she's an assassin for the Hutts. This is where she gets her name. So I'm assuming in some capacity we're going to be dealing with the criminal underworld. Cad Bane, is he going to make an appearance? Will we see Boba Fett during this time? Like, there's a lot of potential for this series. I don't think a lot of people are talking about, or we've really had a conversation about as far as the potential for other characters to make an appearance in this series. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing um young Han Solo. Like he would, I think he would have joined the Imperial Academy around this time period. He might, well, maybe not season one, but at some point in the season in the series, he would be in the Empire. So that would be interesting for him. And and he doesn't need to be featured prominently, but it would be something I would like to see. Um, I don't know, mate. Do we probably don't see the Emperor, but that's also on the table. You can't take the Emperor off entirely. You can't take Vader out of the equation either. I feel like Vader's almost a given. Like it's going to be, I'd be strange not to see Vader pop in at some point. Um, at some point, like, will they be hunting survivors of Order 66? Um, how did Order 66 affect them? Did they have the inhibitor chip placed in them? I'm not sure. I would assume that they did, but it's not really plainly stated that they did. They didn't seem to be as affected as the other clones were. Um, I think we'll get the answer to that question during this series. Like, what's their relationship with Vader, and how do they view Kenobi and Mace Windu and all of the other Jedi that they um, spent or at least served with in some capacity during the Clone Wars? Like, they seem to be a little bit more conscious than the other clones are, or a little bit more independent. So, like, do they think differently? Um, do they have the same um, disposition as the Clone Wars? Do they loyally follow orders the same way that the other clones do? Like, there's a lot of potential, in my opinion, for this, for these, for the Bad Batch to kind of sort of break a lot of the perceptions around the clones, and to be kind of different and kind of be their own thing. Um, I like the matte black armor that they don. It's the same armor I think that they had in the Clone Wars, but it's still a stark contrast, even still, against the white stormtrooper armor. Um, but yeah, man, that's kind of sort of where my head is. Like, there's so many potentials for all of this to kind of play out into some sort of grander imperial experience. Like, we don't really see this, what the empire is like from the empire's perspective during this time period. So that's another thing I'm kind of looking forward to with this show. Ma, what's going on? Wait a second, I'm on the wrong screen. Popping in. Uh yeah. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Um, we think the what else? Who else could pop in? Who else could pop in? Um, Thrawn is my big one though. Thrawn is my big one. Like, Thrawn is the one that I want to see more of. I think it makes sense for Thrawn to pop up logistically, given the fact that he will more than likely appear. All the rumors indicate that he's going to be in the Ahsoka show, which will debut, I believe, later this year. Um, so getting his some more screen time for him leading up to this show, maybe that there are some subtle connections they can make between Thrawn and the Empire for first time viewers. Like, not everyone's seen Rebels, so this would be a good introduction to the character of Thrawn for some people, because I think you have to approach it in that regard. um I think that it's a missed opportunity if they do not include the Inquisitorium in some capacity during this, and it's also a missed opportunity if we don't see some, the Purge troopers and um, the Inquisitorium hunting down surviving Jedi. Um, the subtle formation of the rebel cells across the galaxy, like, will they be investigating some of those occurrences around the galaxy? Like, um, based on the Rebels TV show, there had been cells. Oh, the partisans. I completely forgot about the partisans, but Saul Guerrero's partisans, like, that's the first group of that's the first organized rebel cell within the galaxy that openly opposes the Empire. So, like, that's a good one for them to investigate. And I'm always down for Forrest Whitaker to voice that character again. He is a fan of the character, so I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't turn it down unless he was just absolutely unavailable and couldn't make it work. But all indications for me, like, he's in every interview that I've seen him in talk about the character. He's very he loves that character. So I think Saul Guerrero and his partisans showing up would be cool to see. He would be a formidable opponent for the Bad Batch, and like, he'd be someone that you would want a group like the Bad Batch to kind of uh, investigate, or at least try to stop, because his guerrilla tactics were very successful in the early years of the rebellion, and it inspired a lot of other rebel cells and activity throughout the galaxy. So he's a key figure for them to kind of um, um, have featured in this show. There's another character, which is where I think they could tie Thrawn in a little bit, but there was a character that was a thorn. Well, not really a thorn in Thrawn's side, but he was someone that Thrawn was an adversary to Thrawn early in his career. And the only thing that's prevented Thrawn really from taking this guy down early was the bureaucracy within the Empire. So I forgot what his call sign was, but he's someone that could be um, something that a person that they could encounter during this, which would tie him to Thrawn. Well, at least tie this show and make reason for Thrawn to appear at some point. Um, and there's a lot. I mean, the Outer Rim is just, there's so much potential with them going to the Outer Rim of the galaxy, because that's mostly the lawless frontier, if you will. It's a lot of the independent systems are out in the Outer Rim, and the Empire expands its territory into the Outer Rim. During this time period, a lot of the separatist controlled worlds during the Clone Wars fall under the Imperial banner at this point in time, and it'd be kind of cool to see some of that. The transition from the how does the Empire go and take control of these separatist worlds without people realizing that you know the whole world, not the whole world, but the whole war was a like it was false. Like, the Emperor was in control of it the whole time. Like, they can't just one day be separatists and then the next day be imperial. Like, what he's installed all of these figures, um, you know, to make that transition a little easier, maybe, or maybe not. Like, to me, from the Clone Wars, it seemed like a lot of the Senate or the Parliament, I don't know what they're called, but the separatist government, a lot of them seem to be under the impression that Dooku was operating independently. They didn't know Sidious was behind the scenes, as most people within the galaxy did at this time. So, um, the Empire taking control of the separatist worlds would be an interesting thing for us to view through the lens of the Bad Batch. Um, that's what will. I mean, that's basically what. we've got for now. Like until we get some more promotion about the series, which I'm pretty sure that we'll start to crank up um probably around April, probably late April. Falcon and the Winter Soldier uh comes out March. So I think Marvel will have its run basically from now till the end of, I'd say, to the end of March, and then April we'll start to see a lot more Star Wars related content um, and promotion. Them featuring a lot more of the Bad Batch and then the upcoming projects. May the 4th, I think they should make a big deal out of May the 4th and give us some more details on all of the shows and content that they announced during D23. Give us an update on um, Mando season 3, maybe if there's anything to say about that at that point in time. Um, well, I guess the Cara Dune. I know the Cara Dune. We know with the situation with that, with uh Gina Carano being let go. There was a Cara Dune project on the table. We know that they're not going to recast the character, so she's just going to fade from the timeline at this point. So I'm assuming that show will get canceled. Well, it's been canceled, which is why they didn't announce it back in December. They probably weren't. Um, you're probably anticipating that this was going to happen. So anything else that they may have been waiting and they couldn't announce during the investor day call, I think that they should talk about or at least announce during this time period. Give us an update on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Um, Maybe a first teaser trailer on May the 4th. Definitely the Ahsoka show because that comes out this year. So I definitely want to see some more Ahsoka stuff. Give us some Ahsoka news. Like let's hear some more um, about that, where this series is going to take us. My predictions are that the Ahsoka series is going to take place in the unknown regions, in the search for Ezra. I've heard a lot of rumors about that. Like the show will be about um, them looking for Ezra Bridger. And if you don't know who that is, Ezra Bridger is a character from Star Wars Rebels. He's the main character, as a matter of fact, that we watch grow and mature just as we watched Ahsoka really during the Clone Wars, but just in 4 seasons instead of 6. So I'm assuming that we'll see a lot of that. I believe that the planned Rebels sequel is now the Ahsoka TV show. Um, it's rumored that Sabine, of course, is going to be involved in this show, and she'll probably be the co-lead along with Ahsoka. Thrawn will have to, in some capacity, be one of the most prominent threats. He'll probably be positioned as the big bad in the Ahsoka show. So, the more we get, if we can get, a tease or a glimpse of Thrawn in some capacity in the Bad Batch TV show, I think it just makes absolute sense, kind of setting him up for the Ahsoka show for those who haven't had a chance to go watch Rebels. And given the period, he would just be starting his career with the Imperial Navy. So it would make sense for him to. He wouldn't be Grand Admiral Thrawn yet. He, I believe, would be Captain. No, or Lieutenant. Yeah, he'd be a low ranking officer basically. If we see him at all in the Bad Batch. But to see him, to get a name, get people familiar with who he is and his importance to the Empire through the Bad Batch, like that, I think that's a good way to kind of set him up for those who hadn't seen Rebels or hadn't read the books or didn't know anything about the character. Other than the name drop that we got in season 2 of The Mandalorian, it's not. It's a wasted opportunity, I think, if we don't see Thrawn in season 1. But there's no way we can't um, in a later season see Thrawn. Like I just can't see that as a you had that character available and you don't use them in this show. I think that's just a missed opportunity at all, and I don't think that they'll do that. So I'm anticipating that we're going to see him in some capacity during, if not the first season, in the later season of the Bad Batch. Um, but yeah, man, that's kind of sort of where my thoughts are on this. It's probably going to be a shorter stream, 30 minutes in. That's kind of what I want to talk about. We don't have too much news. Next issues of the High Republic stuff come out, at least the comic books. There's no books that are coming out this month. I think the next book is not due to release until June. So all we'll have are the 2 comic book issues that are ongoing for the High Republic Adventures, which we'll get new issues, of course, this month, which have been good. I mean, I like the comic books. I'm thinking, I'll say that I think I like the comic books right now a little bit more than the novels. The novels are kind of, I won't say they're not moving, but they're kind of they're in the same. They basically take place at the same time, or at least the novel story isn't moving fast enough at this point for me. Like we're continuing with the great disaster, and everything is kind of sort of revolving around that, where the comic books kind of touch on the great disaster, but they're moving in another direction. They're actually moving beyond that event, and it's happening a little bit faster than the novels are at this point. So right now I'm more captivated with the comic book series for the High Republic, and I'm looking forward to these next 2 issues coming up in the month of March to continue these adventures. But yeah, other than that, that's all I've got. Bad Batch, I'm like I said, looking forward to that. We can't wait to get a story trailer, which I'd anticipate we'll get probably in April. Like it has to be in April, early April, since the show's coming out May 4th. So that's definitely something to keep on the radar. If you haven't watched, probably if you're unfamiliar with these characters, if you aren't familiar with the Bad Batch, they've only appeared in the Clone Wars, and it's in season 7 of the Clone Wars. So if you don't care for spoilers, you could just go watch season 7 of the Clone Wars just to get an idea. Because if you watch that first arc, you'll learn a lot about the Bad Batch, because those first 4 episodes are entirely about them. And I think if you've seen the prequel films, like episode 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars, if you watch the first 4 episodes of season 7, you'll be able to follow along just fine, because they don't play on too many of the story elements other than the clone trooper that's missing, but you don't really need to know who that clone is to follow along with that arc, because we don't even know. I won't spoil it, but if you want to watch and get a basic understanding of the Bad Batch and who they are, go watch the first 4 episodes of season 7 of the Clone Wars, which is on Disney Plus. But that's all I got to say on this topic for this episode. It's going to be a shorter stream. It's just not too much going on right now, so Star Wars wise, but I did want to talk about it because that was on my mind. That was kind of festering. Those were some ideas that I had that I'd like to see. I actually thought about just doing like a short video on Wednesday or whenever that was that the news dropped that the Bad Batch was coming out on May the 4th. But I was like, if I did that, then I wouldn't have a topic for today. So I was like, all right, I'll just do the live stream, talk about it a little bit, and we'll go from there. But I'm going to wrap it early on this episode. But thank you all for joining. I love coming on here and talking Star Wars. So for it doesn't matter. I'm gonna be kind of loose with these streams. Like I'm gonna aim for an hour, but I don't think they need to be an hour. Like this clearly didn't need to be a long discussion. So yeah, but thank you for joining. Make sure you follow us on social at Certified Gumbo. We're on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and that's it. Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, all links are in the description. Be back here on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Friday for the season finale recap of WandaVision episode 9. Definitely looking forward to that. Episode 9 is supposed to be 50 minutes. That's what the rumor is on the internet right now. We'll see. That's been wrong for the past, I don't know, four episodes. I'd say people have been saying that, oh, the runtime is going to be this long, but that hadn't been the case. So we'll see how long it is. I'm anticipating that it is going to be a longer episode than we've gotten in the past. Should be a good conclusion. I'm anticipating that it's not going to be a all ends tied ending. I don't think it's going to be a clean ending. I think it's going to be open ended, and we'll have to wait for Spider-Man 3 and the Multiverse of Madness to get an all around conclusion to the show. I think it's a possibility that the Wanda, and I don't know if it would be WandaVision, but I think they can continue a spin-off show later down the road with Wanda and Vision. I would like to see that. I wouldn't be opposed to that. And then also Saturday, we've got the Cookout as usual, episode 33, which would be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the channel. So yeah, you know the drill. As I always say, peace, love, blessings, and may the force be with you always.